Good evening. On behalf of Lewisville High School, as the proud principal of this place, I welcome you here tonight. It is my honor at this time to introduce to you Dr. Sutton, our superintendent.
Tear things up. All right, good evening, everyone. It's great to have you all here and to see some other faces from last week in Great Falls. It's good to see you all here again tonight. Before we get started with some comments about me, I would definitely like to introduce several key members of the district's team and board members as well. So I'll start with board members. Did you turn that up? Oh, right. Okay, good. Can you all hear me in the back? All right, make sure you don't miss anything. I want you to hear all of it tonight. All right, so we'll start with, you can raise your hand. We have Mr. James Fuller, board member. Mr. Doug Shannon, board chair. Ms. Brenda Ford, board member. Ms. Maggie James, board member. Ms. Nakia Houston White, board member. Any others? I think we're good. All right, and district staff, we have Mr. Adam Davis, our chief operations officer. Ms. Denise Khalid, chief academic officer. Mr. Wendell Sumter, Chief Human Resources Officer. Of course, you know Ms. Snipes, Principal. And Mr. Dr. Will Pickens, Chief Administrative Services Officer for the district. And we have here, of course, Mr. Chris Kristoff, Director of Marketing Communications. I'm looking just, I want you in the back row. I don't know why you sit right next to me. Ms. Melanie Jeanette, she has the purse strings, our Chief Financial Officer. That happened, you were sitting right next to me. And Mr. Morris Robinson, our Director of Technology. And all of the district staff members and artists, we can wait here. I didn't miss anybody else, right? Mr. Davis will do you, so I'll hold it. Other district staff members, if you raise your hand, we have Principal Snipes over there and several others. And I know there's some Lewisville High some staff here as well. So we thank you all for being here. And Mr. Vonda Dixon, of course, and Mr. Brian Edmond. If I start calling in, I'll leave somebody else. I'm going to say, wave your hand, you work for the school district. That's best. All right, we're going to get started. As we're running these community town halls in the same way we will do them at all three sites. And I will say, remind again at the end, if there are other meetings that you all would like us to come to speak to other groups, please feel free to do that. We're willing to do whatever we need to do to continue to educate the community on the bond referendum and why we need what we need, and hear feedback from you as well. So first, I'll start with high schools. Our high schools have not been touched over 50 years in this district. As I've said before, that's something that's really unheard of for schools to go that long without having been replaced, rebuilt of some sort. And our high schools have not in this district. And if you go, you can look around the state and you'll see a lot of schools from this era, they've been already torn down and rebuilt, because during that time frame, a lot of facilities, they were not, of course, they have no architectural character at all in schools in the 60s and 70s. They're not energy efficient, and they are constructed of cheaper materials. That's just from the building period at that time. A lot of things were built with much cheaper materials during that time from the 60s and 70s. And most of those schools across the United States have been torn down. But of course, in Chester County, we maintain to the best of our ability these facilities. As you know, they're beyond the end of their life cycle. So that's one of the main reasons that we need to work to replace these facilities. Some key points on why we need this referendum. Again, as mentioned, our district does not have modern facilities, definitely at our high school level, making them more costly to maintain. These schools have major roofing, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing issues. And we have principals in our district, other district staff, and we're pouring money into all these things that could be remedied with a new facility. I know this school has had, Ms. Snipes can attest to it, some sewage issues, plumbing issues and sewer issues from the lift station here, and we've had issues there, and electrical issues across this district and a lot of our facilities. New high schools also allow for more course offerings for students. A lot of our facilities are maxed out on space. They do not allow for students to have additional programming or the course we want to have. A lot of our rooms, they're not even your square classrooms or rectangular shape. They're odd-shaped classrooms that are not conducive for student learning in the 21st century. And we also realize that the way students learned in the 60s and 70s, or even a year ago, are not the way students learn today. Students learn differently, and they need more collaborative spaces that are conducive to learning. In our buildings, a lot of our facilities, definitely our high schools, they don't allow for that in this district. Another key primary focus for me on this referendum as far as these school placements are the security aspects. A lot of our schools are lacking security features throughout our district, and these facilities will allow us to have secure facility entrances because there are things happening across this country with schools. And we want to make sure our schools are safe for our students and our staff that work in these schools to make sure that we can control access in and out of our campuses throughout this district. Also, another key thing for our performance, research shows that we need facilities that have more natural light for students. Natural light profoundly impacts the health, wellness, and academic performance of children. Exposure to light during the day boosts mood, alertness, concentration, and energy levels. Studies show that exposure to natural light improves student test scores, attendance, and behavior. And so those are key things that research shows. Over and over again, they talk about those way before this referendum. That's something that's all schools are encouraged to have more natural light in their facilities. Facilities also, the facilities in our district will allow for growth. As you know, our district, this county, is experiencing growth. The growth is coming north, coming this direction. And so Chester is an ideal location right now. We have the real estate here, we have the land here, and as you all know, definitely this area, more developments are coming on the rise. And so we want to be prepared for that. We don't want to be caught when these facilities are up to full scale, they're at their build-out point, and we're stuck not having facilities that can accommodate the growth of students here. And we don't want to put our students in the mobile units either. The economic impact had a meeting just last Friday with Robert Long, as you all may know him, he's the Economic Development Director for the county. And we discussed in detail, which we've done numerous times in the past year and a half since I've been in this district, of the growth coming to the area, to the county. And it's not just growth here. Chester area is also experiencing a lot of growth there, and even Great Falls, with the Whitewater Rapid Center coming, the other things there that are on the horizon for those, all parts of our county. And again, as he mentioned, we have to be careful, as I mentioned before, some of these communities will be 55 plus neighborhoods, so they will not produce the students that some may think, well, we have a new development here, it's going to produce all these students. No, some are going to be senior type living facilities, so they wouldn't have the students count that some may think it will have. But the developments are coming, some are coming, they will bring more students to the district and throughout this county. We want to make sure our schools can take in that growth and they can be in facilities that are conducive to learning. It's also key to mention that our facilities are not a need, they are one. You can look at our plans throughout and ask anyone in here, definitely work in this district, to know that these facilities bring us to baseline where we should have been years ago. Our facilities are way behind, and we want to make sure we have our facilities at a baseline and we can build from that point moving forward. Our facilities also, for our community impact, with these facilities, new facilities on board, it's something that's community use. There are these things that can be held at our schools. Definitely, athletic facilities can be used. They will have artificial turf that will allow, if there's an event on Friday Night Football, after that for Saturday, we can use those fields because they won't be having to maintain the grass and those things. So these schools will not, it's not just the school district, they're for the county, they're the Chester County sites. So we will be able to allow you all to use those facilities throughout the year for various events. That's a part of this plan. And another part I'll mention, of course, in addition to athletics, our fine arts programming, these schools will also incorporate auditoriums. The previous referendum did not have auditorium in the high schools, and right now we only have one high school, which is Great Falls High School, with an auditorium, a little theater in the facility. Of course, that theater will be renovated as well. And of course, with the two new high schools, they will have auditoriums in those facilities for performances. So we won't have to do meetings like this in the gym setting. We will be able to do those in an auditorium setting. And another thing I've mentioned, as I know there's been some distrust in the past on things and transparency, as you all know since I've been here, that's one thing I've worked to improve across our county, and that we're open door Chester County School District. There's nothing we need to hide, there's no reason to hide. We're a public entity, we're nothing being hidden. If something you need, just ask. And a part of that, if we're successful with our referendum, is my goal to establish a citizens review committee where community members from all across our county can be a part of that. And as we spend down the funds, somebody's going to detention. Whose phone? Whose phone is it? So as a part of this process, the referendum passes, the goal is to have a citizens review committee that will be able to meet with district staff, and you can see how we're spending the funds and make sure we're spending it in line. Again, we can't spend on anything different because that's against the law. And I stated before, I've never been in jail, I've never been in an orange jumpsuit, I don't plan to go. So whatever money is spent on this referendum will be spent on the referendum, not on anything else. And again, that's legally binding. We are not able to spend bond referendum dollars on other projects. Whatever projects are listed, we have to spend the funds on those projects only. They can't be spent on anything else. So again, in helping with that transparency piece, this Citizens Review Committee will help with that, and that citizens from the community will be a part of that committee, and you'll be coming in periodically to the district office, and we'll share, here we are, this is the money we're spending on these particular items, projects, construction projects across our district. So those are some key things I would like to mention, and I'll come back at the end with some closing comments. So how will this will flow? And before we move forward, I know passions are high. We have varying views on what we should, the referendum amount is too high, or is this that, or we don't include this, we don't include that. We want to hear, that's why we're having this, to hear from the public and gain feedback, and from that, and answer questions the best of our ability. If something we don't know, I'm going to stand and tell you I don't know. I'm not going to stand here and make up anything to you. That doesn't help anybody to make up anything. If I don't know, I'm going to turn to my left or my right and ask those who may be subject matter experts in those particular areas to answer the question. I will answer to the best of my ability, but again, I will not stand here and tell you something that's not accurate. I'll lean on those who support me in this cause. Another piece that I only ask that we be respectful of each other as we come through tonight and try to avoid things that have happened in the past. As I stated last week in Great Falls, Dr. Antoine Sutton became superintendent July 1st, 2020. Let's base things on that point moving forward. I know there's issues that have been from previous administration, those kinds of things. Don't hold me responsible for that. Start July 1st, 2020, and you see the direction I'm taking this district, my vision for the district. Let's move from that point forward. And I think we keep our students at the forefront of why we're doing what we're doing, and this will be a successful meeting. And again, I ask that we be respectful of each other as we're asking questions, providing feedback to those. Just be respectful of each other. We have other students in here. This is being recorded. It will be online as well. So I would like us to just have, as far as decorum-wise, we be respectful of each other. And again, in asking my questions or providing feedback. So to get started, we will start with our Mr. Adam Davis, our Chief Operations Officer, will come forward and he will introduce our construction management firm and our architects, who will go through a brief presentation of our plans. And they've been out there now since January, but he'll go through the bond plans, and then we'll move from there with another part of our program. And after that, we'll get into the question and feedback period from the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sutton. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. All we're trying to do is inform the public of the needs that we have currently. Just like to take a moment to thank Ms. Knight and Ms. Stone working through our capital improvement plan for the Lewisville School. They played a major part of that, of what we actually need, the bones of the building and how that operates. We have with us tonight our construction manager firm, Thompson Turner, Mr. Bradley Thompson, Bradley Goldman, Rodney Thompson, and our architectural firm, Ben Thompson with McMillan Tyson Smith. I'll ask him to come up tonight to go over the plan with us.
Thank you. Left part out. Before Mr. Thompson comes back up, for perspective, it's important that we see what modern facilities look like around Chester County, for perspective. And again, it's not that we're trying to follow the Joneses. No, just that I'm showing you what modern facilities look like, high schools that surround this county, and you will see a major difference in where our facilities are and what high schools look like that surround us. So the first one, also, with their comments, we have some feedback. We have a survey that's open to the public, that's online for students and for staff members as well to provide feedback. And I'll share too, when we walked in this evening, we had the folks, images out in the hallway, the group of students that came through from the band room, like, oh man, that's what our school's gonna look like? And they're like, man, bummer that we won't be here, some of them said, but they're like, well, my sister, they were making those kind of comments, and I didn't say anything, so I just happened to walk in, and they were out there looking at those photos, and they came in here and asked, well, can we go in? Yeah, sure. You can come in here, and they looked at the images there. So the students are excited about it. And again, that's just a sampling of, you think we would have all students across the district come in and look at these images. of that excitement that you would see from students that are currently here. And even say, well, I wish our band room currently looked like that. That's what some were saying, kind of a band room. So I wanted to share that. So this is some of the feedback. Again, when we have feedback on a survey, we're not just sharing the positive things. We're sharing honest feedback that some were negative, some were in support. So we wanted to see what's being said out there. Now, I should be able to see that real quick. Something's wrong with my eyes. I think something in the air. Because I don't wear glasses. But I'm going to try to read it. I like that we are going to expand. Take a step over here. I like that we are going to expand schools so we can fit more students and improve. Thank you. That's what it needs to be twisted. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. I like that we're going to expand schools so we can fit more students and improve the current state of the schools for the student body. I like the plans proposed location for CHS and the Career Center across the street from the York Tech Chester campus. This would allow for easier commutes for parents who have children in multiple grade levels. I appreciate the modern aesthetic and the renderings and like the plans proposed layout. I especially like the proposed green space areas. Another student said, I as a student will not enjoy any of the things that will be constructed as a result of this plan. With that being said, I still strongly support the proposed plan and think it will allow Chester to continue growing in the years to come. The community of Chester deserves access to the same tools and opportunities given to neighboring school districts. The referendum is a chance to invest in the future generations of Chester. History suggests that investments in projects like this always guarantee returns in the form of progress for society. And again, these are from students in our district. I like the idea of having our own space to practice the different sports rather than using areas around Chester like the baseball field. I also like how JROTC is inside the building. I do not like the plan focus on sports facilities. As stated above, I feel that money could be better spent on students to improve learning opportunities. I dislike the cost. With all this new school, it's going to cost a lot of money, but it will be worth it for the long run. These are some from committee members, from adults. Our county is way behind on everything compared to other schools that we visit for activities. Our facilities are outdated, lack of available equipment, and the lack of facility that is safe for our children to be in. I like that Lewisville will be getting some improvements. The high school does seem quite dated. I feel it is needed with more people moving into the area. Please look at the income of the community and what the community can support. Also, please review the buildings to be cost effective and better representative for the potential growth in areas, especially Lewisville. These bonds have failed continually because the desires of the people who have been overlooked. Professional architects and capital campaign managers can make things look beautiful, but they cannot change the size of the Chester County population or the average yearly income. We love our schools and support them at a grassroots level, but most of Chester County are simple people that would like to see responsible spending make our schools safe and dependable. So those are just some of the feedback from those who submitted survey feedback online. I want to share with you all. So now moving on to perspective of high schools that surround our county. You have Catawba Ridge High School in Fort Mill, York High School, York School District 1, Fairfield Central High School, South Point High School in Rock Hill, and Indian Land High School in Lancaster County. So compare the schools I just showed you to our high schools, Chester High School. As I mentioned, 60 to 70 schools do not have any architectural significance at all. Lewisville High School, and of course Great Falls High School. And the only reason you have some more modern field there is because of the middle school facility in that community. All right, thank you. Now, Mr. Thompson, you're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Sutton. Great to be with you again this evening. Thank you for spending some time with us, really looking at this capital improvements plan. I'm going to try my best to, at the 20,000 foot level, to really give you an overview of what's included in this capital improvements plan. Overall, as Dr. Sutton mentioned, it does touch many of the facilities here in Chester County School District. That includes all high schools, Great Falls Elementary School, and of course athletics involved in all those facilities as well, in addition to the Career Center. So what we do from a capital improvements plan standpoint is first to listen. Listen to what the staff has to say, listen to the vision and the mission of the school district, and of course, listen to the mission and vision of what's happening in each one of these schools. Mrs. Snipes has been one integral member of that, specifically for the development of the plan here at Lewisville High School. So we'll get into all of those features. But that's exactly from what my role is in this process, is to listen and to really understand what's needed so that we can implement that inside of the design and show everyone what that design really feels like, what that design really looks like at the end of the day. All of the things that we've been looking towards in this capital improvements plan have goals of their own. As I mentioned, keep that integrity of the program for each one of the attendance zones. So that means touching all high schools, really looking at maintenance as something that we can affect by putting new construction into place right now and making those very maintainable buildings into the future, among other aspects of the goals for these projects. Just briefly, Great Falls Elementary School, that's the attendance zone we start. For Great Falls Elementary School, we were looking at several additions and renovations to this space, to this existing facility. One of the main, starting from the project perimeter and going inside, one of the main concerns with Great Falls Elementary School is the circulation, the car circulation, the student circulation, as well as the parking on there. So first and foremost, correcting those circulation concerns so that you have proper stacking on site the property for parent pickup and drop off, so you have proper and more parking available out there, and certainly that you have a bus loop and a car loop separated from each other. So once that circulation, including that circulation improvement, then looking at where is the new front door. And you'll see some of the renderings here. One of the things about Great Falls Elementary School is that the front door is kind of off to the side. So we, in this scenario, we put an addition right up at the front for the new administration area, and took that space that is the administration area now and converted that into classrooms overall. In addition to some of those, in addition to the main addition in front and those renovations for those spaces, improving those spaces around the existing gymnasium was also important, as well as making that outside corridor, the gymnasium, indoor corridor for that gymnasium as well. One final item here for the planning of this facility was that the cafeteria was really inefficient in size, ineffective in size. So looking at taking some of the existing spaces and reconfiguring that so that we expand that cafeteria and can fit more students in there properly during lunch period time. Here are just a couple of renderings of the existing facility. You can see this is the administration addition. Really focuses you on exactly where a parent, where a visitor would come onto the site, so that you know exactly where to go when you're there. You can see some indication of canopies in that area too, so that you can be picked up and dropped off, even in inclement weather, and get to the front door for students as well. A couple just existing photos of the space. This little area is where that new addition would go. You can see the existing facility has pitched roofs, and as you look at that main building that was built a couple of decades ago at this point, that's exactly right now where the existing office is. You can see the office symbol right there on the left-hand side of the screen. Just some existing photos of the cafeteria. Really, making that space a little bit more broad would help circulation inside that cafeteria day in and day out. One thing about that gym is that it used to have a stage attached to it. And that stage has been used for other purposes, for classroom space over the years, converted for that function. So as part of this improvement project, to really look at that and recapture that stage, put the stage back into the gymnasium so that it can be used for that function again. So that's Great Falls Elementary School. Great Falls Middle and Great Falls High School as a campus, kind of overall. Lots of parts to this master plan. Overall, on the right-hand side, you can see the light gray boxes. Those are the middle school. And in the center of the campus, that darker box, that is the replacement of the existing high school building with a new facility. So we'll get into that. Overall, some of the same concerns at Great Falls High School with circulation, bringing students for the middle school and bringing students for the high school in separate areas was an important feature here. But then also providing, again, more stacking on site and more parking on site in and around that facility was important. Taking a look at the building in the center, there's also fields that kind of surround each one of those facilities now. Of course, you have a stadium out there currently, and that's located at the bottom center. You can see also 2 fields that we don't have out there right now, which is baseball and softball, locating that in such a way that we can really utilize that space more efficiently. In addition to those, of course, parking and circulation for after-school events, as well as parking and circulation for student drivers associated with the high school as well. Programmatically, if we're looking at the replacement of that building, replacing the parts that are necessary for that facility. That meaning a competition gymnasium. The existing competition gymnasium would then become really the auxiliary gym in this scenario with a full competition gym able to serve this campus overall. In addition, music rooms, band, and chorus, and of course all of the support spaces that go along with those. We do have a series of locker rooms in there to serve that field, of course. And by doing these types of things within that building, that really frees up a lot of space on the inside of that existing building for other functions. ROTC can move around to where that auxiliary gymnasium is, since we've freed up some of the space around there. More academics can be made available as programs shift around and as the campus continues to grow into the future. Just a few visuals of what that improvement looks like here at the front entry of the middle school, providing, again, a covered canopy so the kids can be picked up and dropped off. A little addition at the front of this facility so that we have a security vestibule. So you have to come through this security vestibule before you gain access as a visitor or as a parent before you gain access to the school proper. So just like your other schools that have that feature, wanted to put that and get that included in that front entry sequence. On the high school side, the principal really wanted to make sure that everyone knew where that front entry was for that high school facility. So really something that allows you to say that that's identifiable, that's part of the high school associated with the high school campus. So you can see here, you can certainly tell as a visitor coming to a tournament, as a visitor coming to an after-school event in this facility, exactly where to go overall. Zooming out, that's the high school replacement building there in the foreground, and of course the middle school in the background as well. A couple of just existing shots, existing facility of, middle school. That's the front entry as it is now. The high school, which we are demolishing as part of this, and for good reason. Like Dr. Sutton said, many of these buildings have outlived their life expectancy and would take a tremendous amount to repair and improve at this point. All right, so that's Great Falls. Lewisville. This campus that we're on right now is the top of the screen, and Lewisville Elementary is the bottom right of the screen. So this campus, because it has 2 facilities on it, we really start to think about this as a joint campus. And the reason why is traffic and circulation. With parents picking up and dropping off for elementary and for high school, we really want to think through how all those work. Because of the size of this campus from an acreage standpoint, we really do have to think about how SCDOT views roadways and the amount of stacking that you do have to have on site today versus when the facility was originally constructed. So we took a really hard look at circulation, both at the elementary school and at the high school, to make sure that we met all of the code requirements from SEDOT and others as part of the master planning of this facility. You can see there are a lot of parking areas at the front of the high school building, which is the top portion of the property, as well as a division between car drop-off, student parking, and bus and service drives on the high school. On the bottom of the page is the elementary school, still planning on doing additions to the elementary school as part of this capital improvements plan to bring the 5th grade back over to this campus, but also improving the circulation in and around Lewisville Elementary School as well, specifically fire department access around the entire facility, being able to provide that safety feature for Lewisville Elementary School. One thing that I'll start with going into the building for the high school is, like I said, you do have a small, from an acreage standpoint, campus. So really, how do we deal with that when you have kids on campus that are going to have to be here, going to school, taking tests, day in and day out, while the construction of a new building is going on. So we really do have to think about that as part of the process here. One area that was available that we looked at as far as how do you start thinking about something like that on an existing campus are the baseball and softball field in the PAC. So really the first thing that you have to do is establish where that building footprint is, and really the best and most open area to begin that is the baseball and softball field. What does that mean? That means we've got to go and build baseball and softball in a different location. So that's why you see baseball and softball kind of bottom of the screen there. That's actually the first thing that we have to do before we start construction on the high school. Once those are moved, that high school begins construction. It is a 2-story facility. You can see it's shaped in and around the existing high school that continues to operate until it's ready to be demolished and construction is complete on the new. Once that's finished, demolition, and then we'll reassociate all the drives and parking necessary to make this a full and complete campus at the end of the day. Looking at the diagram of the plan, overall, as I said, it is a 2-story facility. Academics are in blue, so you can see to the right of the screen an academic wing. That is a 2-story academic wing. And that first, the central main entry arrow, that's the main entry point for this facility. Once you come into the building, you're in a security vestibule, just like other facilities, of course. And you have administration and guidance on either side. And then straight in is your competition gym and auxiliary gym, kind of overall. All the other features that are necessary for a full and comprehensive high school are located on the first floor. Band and chorus, of course, a theater for a little over 400, I believe 400 students, and a dining room and kitchen right there in the center and heart of the campus as well. Upstairs, all of the academics necessary to support the 600 student population that this one is planned for, in addition to the media center, teacher workrooms, and certainly some other fine arts and educational space as well. So really great plan, really had a good time with Mrs. Snipes and team looking at the opportunities to place the right things in this building, kind of overall. From an aesthetic standpoint, that's always going to be a work in progress as we get into design, but really taking a look at this campus and making sure that it does feel modern and updated, but not to the extent that it will feel dated in 10, 20, and 30 years. Either really wanted to make it a nice, functional, durable facility that you could clearly see and identify where that front door was, but then also provide material for that durability aspect. This is a view from pickup and drop off as you come to that front entry area. You can see signage is part of that as well, and you certainly know where to go when you come onto this property and look for that front door kind of overall. Zooming out just a little bit, looking at that from an aerial view, you can see all of the drives. Really took a hard effort here to make sure that students don't pass over drives as they go from point A to point B in the morning. So but we were able to accomplish that and really make sure that it operates the way that it should kind of overall. Each one of these facilities would now, as part of this plan, have a theater. Lewisville High School would also have a theater, so it also, in thinking of that, it needs to have its own separate entry so that it can be used after hours, of course. So it has on the side of this facility a separate entry for the theater itself. That two-story academic wing that I pointed out earlier, there are opportunities to have outdoor courtyards and outdoor learning. So some of those student areas, sitting right outside of those outdoor learning areas, was certainly important to the design of this facility. You can see this gives an opportunity to let light in and have some of those collaborative indoor and outdoor areas overall. Again, you know this facility very well. You came in the front door, so I won't spend a whole lot of time looking at the existing facility, but a true difference between where it is now and what it could be into the future. All right, last section, right? Chester High School. This campus is actually two facilities as well. On the right-hand side of the screen is the footprint for what would be a new Chester High School. On the left-hand side of the screen, these are dark gray boxes. Left-hand side of the screen is the new Chester Career Center. So in addition to those footprints, part of the planning of this site specifically is also dealing with athletics, bringing in new athletics to those facilities. It is a brand new open property as it is right now, and you can see the assembly of just road work that has to be there to really support all of those functions as well. Just like here, taking and spending time to make sure that road work pattern is right was really important as it was here at Great Falls High School as well. Full complement of athletics for stadium, baseball, softball, tennis. We didn't really mention tennis, but the idea is that all sports opportunities are the same across all high schools as well. This is the floor plan of the Career Center. The Career Center design is ongoing. We are moving forward with the Career Center design. It's designed as of right now in 3 phases. That first phase will be the front portion of the building. Phase 2 and 3 will be the wings, and the idea is that those be added through the years. But this facility includes all the components that are at the Career Center now currently in much an expanded way to provide the right space for today's needs at the Career Center, and even offers a few new programs to that Career Center as well. You can see the rendering, probably printed a little bit better. This one turned out a little too green, right? So this one is, but this is that front entry area. Again, some of the same principles that we've mentioned beforehand, which are identifiable front door, really express the modern or contemporary aspect of what's going on educationally on the inside of this building without being dated either. And using durable materials. So all those same principles are included within this Career Center. The existing Career Center, as many of you know, is in a similar condition as some of the high schools that we've seen throughout the district. Okay, final thing here is the new high school for Chester. So Chester High School, this one is a high school for 900 students based on not only its current enrollment, but what it's projected to be in the future. All of those same components that we mentioned at Lewisville High School are present here at Chester High School, just in a different configuration and a different size based on enrollment and enrollment alone. Here you can see the academic wing break into 3 parts. It is a two-story school and has all of the same components, meaning competition gymnasium, auxiliary gymnasium, theater for a slightly larger enrollment, and dining room and kitchen as well. Upstairs is the media center and the balance of all academics necessary for this facility, as well as some of those teaching spaces needed for teachers day in and day out. Zooming out on this property, in the foreground you can see the high school. In the background you can see the career center overall. So really making sure that the traffic pattern works, and the traffic pattern works for each one of those schools independently as well as together between each other. This one of the things that we heard as we went through and looked at this high school project with a new lens was that we wanted to be a little bit more contemporary in the way that this looks as well. Many of you, if you remember the last plan, had a different appearance, it had a different plan, so we really took the opportunity to go in there and talk with the principal and his staff and make sure that we got everything that we needed out of this one. And that resulted in a new plan and certainly a new look for the facility. Same principles apply here. Identify the front door, modern aesthetic, outdoor learning spaces where we can provide them between those wings, and certainly a better pickup and drop-off situation. Dr. Sutton mentioned safety and security. That's one of our prominent goals with each one of these facilities. So I keep saying those same things about front entry because it does lead into safer and more secure facilities. Looking at the existing Chester High School and Chester Career Center, this one looking from the high school to the Career Center, you can see those old roofs need to be replaced. We just don't want to get into that condition again, so just some of those existing doors, really no interior corridors to some of those classrooms. Safety and security again was a feature that we wanted to solve with this facility overall. All right. I'm glad Thompson Turner joined our team as well for this project. Glad to have them here this evening. Based on each one of those projects, that overview of each one of those 9 projects, we're really starting to look at what does that mean from a value standpoint in today's dollars. It probably won't surprise any of you in here because the news says it so frequently, is that costs have escalated up. There's labor shortage, there is material shortage, and there is just a lot of unknowns about what's going on in the economy right now. That was the look at 2021. When we look at 2022, we see that it's finally starting to get some regularity to it again, or at least that's our hope. I don't have a crystal ball, but our hope is that the escalation that we've seen through the pandemic, all the way through 2021, and even the first quarter, first several months of this year, will begin to level off. I say level off because it will not likely decrease. It will not get back to pre-pandemic levels anytime in the near future. And no, Thompson Turner has been really helpful in helping us and the district understand what prices are, what's available, so that we can really look at what the best opportunity to have these facilities as part of the plan come to fruition. So with that being said, we took a look at those 9 projects, what it meant from a size standpoint, what it meant from a layout standpoint and master planning standpoint, and subdivided those projects into 2 main categories. The first, safety and security and academics. That's the primary, from the school district standpoint, the primary objective with this capital improvements plan. So you can see if you total all those up, meaning essentially three new high schools at different sizes, the Great Falls Elementary School, and the phase 2 and phase 3 of the Career Center. So getting that project earlier That totals up to a total of $263 million. I'm sorry, $220 million. That's what we call question one. So that's the first part. The second part is all the athletics that you saw as part of those high schools. So it's question two, subdividing those components. Really looking at question two just being the balance of athletics. So the New Chester High School Stadium and Sports Complex, the upgrades and improvements to Lewisville High School from an outdoor athletic standpoint, and the same with Great Falls High School. One question I got about this facility from our last meeting is that first part, including the moving of those baseball and softball fields, and the answer is yes. Simply because those have to move first before we can build on that piece of property. So that's included in question one overall. In total, that first question and the second question is that $263 million overall. So with that being said, apologies for the length and the breadth of the capital improvements plan. I'm glad to take any questions later and stick around, but we'll continue on, and thanks for your attention.
All right, now we'll have Ms. Mellinger and our Chief Financial Officer to come and just share with you, of course, the tax implications on homeowners, and we'll also discuss the ballot questions. And after that, I'll open it up. We'll start with questions and feedback from those in the audience. Ms. Jeanette?
Thank you, Dr. Sutton and Ms. Knights for hosting us tonight. I hope you picked up the two documents that were on the table as you came in. If not, if you would, please make sure you get those before you leave. There's two documents out there, and the first one are the actual tax implications. Is it expensive? Yes, it is. Have we waited a long time? Yes, we have. But I think you can see from the presentation Mr. Thompson did, it will be well worth our while. Now, what I will tell you is, yes, $263 million is a lot of money. It more than likely will not be that much, because when our friends at Thompson Turner gave estimates, there's contingencies for increased costs. We know that. We are building post-pandemic, and everything is expensive. Costs have gone up. Things are hard to get, materials are hard to get, so they've made that plan in these estimates. Also, in working with our financial advisors that advise us on bonding and things like that, they have also looked at the cost at a 5% rate. More than likely, it will not be that. So this probably is the worst case scenario. Also understand that on May 16th, which would be Monday, we would not issue $263 million in bonds. We would issue them over a course of years. What would happen for that first year is we would issue what's called bond anticipation notes, so we can begin construction and begin the things that we need to do first. Like, for example, one of the things that Mr. Thompson said was, when it passes, we've got to do something with the Lewisville baseball and softball fields. So they've got to be moved before the construction on Lewisville High can begin. So there's just things like that. So you would not likely see a tax impact until 2024. That would be the first time. And again, not for the entire $263 million. It would be implemented over time as we begin each of these projects. Some of the graphics that we provided here and in the handout Mr. Kristoff has on our website is that for construction cost, for the cost of a home at $100,000, the increase would be $406. I will tell you that the average home value, according to our county assessor and our county tax folks, is $102,000. So roughly, on average, you will see an increase of $406 to your taxes on a homeowner-occupied home, or the equivalent of $1.12 a day. For a car valued at $10,000, the increase would be $60.90, or the equivalent of 17 cents a day. Now, we know
that you aren't billed daily, you're billed annually. But this just kind of puts into perspective what those costs would be on a daily basis on personal property owned for vehicles. So I wanted to share that information with you. There's a chart attached to this information as well that goes across homeowner occupied property, non-owner occupied property, commercial property, and vehicles. So we encourage you to look at that information. And again, the bond issuance date anticipated would be fall of '23, not to appear until tax bills for '24. So please get that. And Mr. Thompson also said, we actually divided the bond question into two pieces. All of the academic pieces of the safety and security would be in question 1. So we've actually given you what the questions would look like. And then question 2, and only if question 1 passes and question 2 passes, do we do everything in question 2, and those are the athletic improvements. So it is divided that way for a reason. So this question says, if and only if question 1 is approved, then you would approve question 2. So take that information, look at it. It actually will be out for public view in our papers and online before too much longer, as we have to have a 60-day notice for it to appear before it goes on the ballot in May. So I wanted to share that information with you. Something else we're doing too is we have contracted with a company called Tischler Weiss, who is an expert on the East Coast in impact fees for building, providing costs, if you will, on new homes. So what it would do is it would apply a fee on new homes that are being built in Chester County, whether they're built in Great Falls or Lewisville or Chester, where they're built for each area, and apply that fee to the construction cost of new homes to help us with construction. So that will certainly help us give us some more revenue in support of these projects. We haven't finalized that fee yet, actually meeting with these folks at the end of the week. They are a very good company. Our county is also using them for impact fee analysis. And many of our surrounding districts have used them, and they've done a great job in providing us with impact fee information. So we hope to be able to share that with our board and community in the very near future. So I wanted to share that with you. Please make sure you get these. What I would leave you with is please understand that we would not issue $263 million worth of debt the day after the bond passes. So thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll entertain some questions now.
Thank you, Mr. Net. All right, now we're at the portion of the program where we will allow you, you have 2 mics out out. If you have any comments or questions, then that would be a question, would be just a comment. And we will do our best to answer those questions that you have. And again, if I can't answer it, I'm going to look to my right. We'll tell the guy at the end down there, he's Chief Operations, or Mr. Thompson. We'll do our best to answer those questions. And again, any feedback you have before we close out. So feel free to come to any of the mics, and then you can ask your question or comment. If for some reason you don't have any you want to ask it, we'll still be hanging around after this. If you want to ask something directly to me or anyone else, feel free to do that as well.
Yeah, I'll start.
Yes.
So as far as in comparison to, the cost, okay? Chester County, annual income of a Chester County resident is about $40,000. And I know you're giving examples of other schools in counties surrounding, especially Indian Land. Their annual income is $84,000. So you're looking at spending a lot of money in a very low poverty county. Okay, we're talking about all of Chester County is on free lunch. So I think my biggest concern is not only for me, but my surrounding citizens that are already struggling. I don't see how they will be able to afford this.
Thank you. And keep in mind I know our schools can't be, again, just for perspective, see what model schools look like. It doesn't have to be the same size or anything other than or that kind of thing, but I just wanted you to have an idea of what modern facilities look like. And again, with that, when it comes to the tax impact, it's the main way and the only way for schools to be constructed is through referendums. And again, all we can do is put out the information, educate the public, and let the voters decide if it's something they can support or not. Again, I can't tell you how to vote. All we're doing is presenting information to the public, and it's up to voters when they go to the polls on the 14th to determine if it's something that is worth it for this county and if they can afford it or not. I can't tell you otherwise as far as the income-wise. We understand that, but again, we're at a critical point where our schools are, and they're continuing to fail. We're pouring a lot of money into these facilities where we would have to do that with new facilities.
Well, and I guess, talking about new facilities, if you look at the Head Start 4K in Edgewater, that building was built in 1950s, 1960s, and it's still being used today. Now, the elementary school, Lewisville Elementary, I have to commend those teachers and that facility, because I was actually a student that dug the dirt there, okay? It's immaculate. I mean, they are taking care of it. These other schools are not getting allocated the money that they deserve.
Yeah. And I agree with you on that, and I'm not blaming anyone for previous administration as far as the maintenance and upkeep, but I've said before, those dollars were not possibly distributed the way our focus was on all schools across the board the same. And you have to understand too, schools, there's a wear and tear on schools based on the number of kids in them and out of them, and of course, high school will have way more wear and tear than students at other levels. But again, I can't go back 30 years or 50 years of how maintenance dollars were spent. That's one of the things being here now, that we're making sure we allocate those based on the needs. But yeah, I agree with you on that maybe dollars weren't allocated the way they should have been when it comes to upkeep of facilities and maintenance. Things have been deferred. So you're right, we're going to have some facilities that are possibly even older, such as Great Falls Elementary, but the condition of that building, it doesn't warrant it to be demolished and replaced. But thank you for that feedback.
What is the time frame on the construction? I know we talked years. We're surely not going to build 3 high schools in a year. What's the time frame?
Just with a high school, talk about construction manager firm there, they can correct me wrong, but predominantly with a high school, it takes 2 years to build. So we were to hopefully successful in May with this, we'd be able to start, possibly win, groundbreaking win, or what kind of?
So from a design standpoint, before you get into construction, we've got to run it through the Office of School Facilities, through the State Department of Education, all of the other state departments as well as here locally. The design of each one of those high schools, depending on the size, will be anywhere from 8 to 12 months, and that's after the bond referendum passes. Once the design is permitted through all those agencies, then it is around a 2-year construction period for a large facility, like Lewisville High School or Chester High School. Some of those projects that we showed in there obviously can start earlier and be constructed well before then. For instance, a classroom addition at Lewisville Elementary School would take much less time to design, much less time to permit, and much less time to construct. So there are pieces that would start quicker than those high schools, but that's generally the time frame for the larger construction, unless, Bradley, you would disagree with any of that. Okay.
So that was 2 years for high school?
2 years of construction, 8 to 12 months for design.
So three to 3.5
Yes,
years?
sir.
Okay. Now, is this we're going to do one high school at a time, so we're looking at 9 years to finish it, or we're looking at trying to do everything across the board?
It's my goal to make sure, and that's before I discuss this, the goal is we start at the same time, start the process. You don't have to do one and wait to do one and then another. The goal is to do those at the same time. Yes, sir.
So, let me see if I've got this right. It takes 8 to 12 months after the bond's passed to get ready, to make sure it meets all the conditions necessary. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, our Career Center has already gone through that 8 to 9 months, and it's okay because we've already broken ground on the Career Center?
The Career Center has already started its permitting process, so it is in process right now. It's at its second submission to the state of South Carolina, which requires 3 submissions.
So, okay.
There hasn't been a groundbreaking, we just put a sign up of what's to come. There has not been a groundbreaking, so it's still in the permitting phases.
I thought I saw a picture of y'all with shovels.
Yes, they were, no, they, you might have saw my cane, but they wasn't a show. This is what you probably saw. I tried to hide it behind me. Mr. Chris, I'm supposed to hide that.
Thought I photoshopped it out.
No, there have not been any shovels, and all we did was put a picture up out there, what's to come.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Got a question. There's several housing developments in the process of getting ready to make houses.
Yes.
Do you anticipate getting what you want done to the Lewisville High School by the time they are needed?
Yes, within the 3-year period, in the end of those developments, they won't be able to build out. It takes maybe 10, 15 before your community is built out. So even with the homes being built, you're not going to have people in the right of way with the children in them. And again, historical patterns show when you have these developments, a lot of them come with smaller children, with elementary age children. And so, okay. Wow, that's the reason why. Like, what is that? Like, it's like about a goldfish. Wow. Okay. Okay, come on, class, get back to order. Let's get back on it. But yes, we will have room in the current, because again, when you have a lot of those developments, it's going to impact your elementary age, younger age children more than your high school. And keep in mind, you still have children that matriculate through, so it's not going to like we're going to end up having these developments and then you have 200 kids waiting to come to school in any part of this county. So we have room, because our schools are not full at the capacity where they should be now, because again, some may say, well, our school's already overcrowded. No, it's the fact that we have lower student-teacher ratios. There's still room in classrooms for students now. We try to ideally keep those class numbers lower, but we still have space in room classes in this district or within the Lewisville schools that can take in more students, and we don't want to. But again, until the new facilities are built, we'll be able to do that.
That answers my question.
How many students can Lewisville hold right now, the high school?
What's that number of the current?
Off the top of my head, I don't want to guess at that. Give me just a minute. Let me see if I can find that.
Like 6, you have what's the capacity? I think it's 6. I have a document, but
Is 600?
I think it's 6 something. And again, I think they're kind of taking into account spaces that are not always used for teaching classes too, so how they get that high of a number. Because you would just come in here on a regular day, which I have been, and a lot of others in here, like, where are we putting kids? We still have mobile and stuff back. The current enrollment here is about 380 right now. And so we would say, by just looking through, but again, we have 380 now, but again, you have, as I mentioned, there are classes where we could possibly put more students, but ideally we would want to, because it would be cramped classes.
Okay. But the new high school, it's going to be 600, correct?
Yes.
So, and this is supposed to last 30 years, 40 years, with the growth that we have now. You really, I mean, is that going to be enough? I mean, I know I saw there was a place where they could add a little more.
Yes.
But I live on a road, it's literally a mile and a half in Fort Long, literally tiny. There are 10 new homes on our road right now, and more being built on one little dead-end road. It's insane the way this place is. And I know you're saying that it's not going to affect the children. They're coming. Like, people that live on our road, there's a bunch of I just don't know that the 600 is going to be enough to accommodate that.
Right, but as I mentioned, you're not going to have an influx all at one time. You're still going to have children are added. You're still going to have your seniors move out. Everybody's moved up, so you're not going to have. We're not going to come. School start 1 August, and you've got 300 kids extra. They still matriculate through. Those kids will be dispersed throughout the schools. You've got your elementary, middle, and high school, so you're not going to get all at one time. And so so 600, right now, you can almost, with 380, 600 capacity school, you're almost getting a school that's almost double the size of the current facility. But again, as Keith mentioned, we have to plan for that. We're not getting 300 or 400 kids all at one time. That's going to be spread out through the 3 schools in this
But I don't think
district.
it'll be spread out over like a super long period of time either. I mean, look at it. Look at, right now behind Bojangles.
Yes.
It's
Oh, yes, we see that.
It's
Yes.
coming, and I just don't know that that's gonna be.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, we have to keep all the expense of it all. Again, we're already getting the feedback on the 263. We can build a larger, but again, that 263, that's in a sense baseline for us. If we increase the size of the school, because based on square footage, that 263 number, that increases more. And also, keep in mind too, there's a multiplier that's utilized when you're determining what homes will bring in terms of students. There's a point, like 3.3 or something like that, and when we receive all that information from our impact fee study, that's what they're working on. They have information from the county on the developments that have already been approved and those that are possibly coming. And that will give us an idea of what areas of what schools will be impacted. And that's how to develop the impact fee, because the impact on the schools and the areas where those developments are. And so, once we have that information, but again, we're not going to expect to even get to the 600 within the next 5 or so years. We're not going to be there, because as students continue, we will have new students. But again, you look at it as they're going to be dispersed throughout Lewisville Elementary, Middle, and High School. We're not going to just come here and get 200-300 kids at one time. And again, the schools are being built where they can be easily added on to, and with increased growth, if we have that 10, 15, 20 years down the line, we need to add on, then the schools, it'll be easy to add on to this facility at that point. But we're trying to get us to where, again, the 263 is really baseline. It's kind of, nothing can be cut from that, because that gets us where we should have been already. So we did have, of course, a percentage of increase from where the current enrollment is, and that's what we're doing for all of for the new facility, that is.
What does it come out to be about roundabout park, like per square foot?
Square footage cost.
Construction cost standpoint. Bradley, it might be a little hand here, but
I'm just saying Louisville, just Louisville.
sure. I think probably we're in the range, we talk about just the building, not talking about the site, not talking about furniture, not talking about any of those other things, just the construction of the building. $285 a square foot for the building itself. And then you've got to add in things like site development costs, all those roads, parking, all those features, of course. So each one of those, Thompson Turner has really taken a deep dive on that, and they've priced what you just saw on the screen. So it's not really a theoretical number. It's really specific to each one of those campuses. But generally in the market right now, $285 a square feet is what the market is telling us that facility would be. Yes, I say that too. It's a lot. And it's as a result of that upswing in escalation, inflation, and other factors.
I think the problem is everyone loves these kind of things, of course. I mean, everyone wants to be Porsche, but you got to pay for it. That's all. I think that's the problem. I understand the average price of a home. I think it was $112. I think that's what you said. But let's say your house is not $112, and it goes up exponentially. And you do have numbers. I'm born and raised in Chester. I'm a Chester product, so I'm proud to say that. But the problem I have, I would say, is I'm for the referendum. I'll give you my vote. We need these facilities. It's no brainer. These high schools like a jail. You do. You go up, it's dirty, it's grungy, it's out of shape, it's out of date. The problem I have with it is that everyone is not participating. Why there's a burden has to be just on property owners. That's the only problem I have with that. I don't understand how you come up with this sales structure, a tax structure. I think that if you went more of a county sales tax, when everyone is participating, 90% vote, it passes. Property tax, our own property. Everyone is not participating in the cheese. That's what I'm saying. And I just think that we have a sales tax, and what kind of or a different tax structure. I'm not savvy on tax structure. I don't. I'm for it, and I probably will vote for it. That's what I'm saying, because it's a no-brainer that we need these facilities, because, you know, everything's run down. These schools are older than me. I mean, I think my dad went to Chester High School, and he's dead now. You know, so it's old. It needs to be conditioned, but I think the problem is the tax. I think the problem is income. You know, I don't say I want to side with anyone, but if you got a county where the average income is a certain amount, it's hard to swallow. That's all I'm saying. But my thing is, if we can get something innovative funding, sponsorships, grants, something besides just property tax, I think it'll be a win-win. So this is something a little more innovative, just clearly property tax. And that's all I say. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, and we've discussed that actually, and keep in mind, there's only so much we can do as district officials in trying to have money other than what we get into the tax dollars, but we have, the only issue with the sales tax is that you can't have one since the county has one. So the county, that's one thing, we just discussed this a few weeks back, and I asked them, okay, why do we have it? But again, it's because the county has the sales tax. Two entities can't have a sales tax at the same time. The only way we can get into that is that when the county is up, if they would agree to let us do one in, because of course, that's with the county council. So again, think about it, when they just renewed in 2020. So when that's up, we go to county council, hey county council, can we get that penny sales tax in revenue and you all don't try to renew it? I'm not a county councilman, but I don't think they're gonna want that income, right? So then we're kind of stifled at, can't go that route. So here we are with, now we had donors, we actually discussed that. Mr. Kristoff, we discussed it in my car right today from Great Falls. Wish we could find Jeff Bezos, his ex-wife, because she's giving away a lot of her money. And seriously, we were like, how can we reach out to someone like that and say, hey, this is the needs we have right now. Can you help us in a sense? So we're trying to be creative. I promise you we are, to try to spare the taxpayers to some point. But again, when you look at it across our country, school construction is funded by tax dollars. That's the main source, unless you have somebody that gives a school district millions of dollars to do it. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Yes.
So I've heard this before about that, the 55 plus housing. Where is that? Because in our communications, my folks' communications with Mr. Long, he's never mentioned that. And that's a narrative we've heard before.
Yeah.
So, and I shook your hand last week, told you implicitly I trust you as a man, because I did. I think you're a straight shooter. But I don't. Where's this 55 plus retirement?
I can't say exactly where, but I met with him on Friday, and he mentioned, and some of my staff was in the meeting, that some developers will be that, or maybe some other ones that are coming, but he didn't, I can't say what road or what.
Could you get back with him and next week in Chester have an answer for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me try to get your contact information before we done. I didn't get it last.
Oh, yes,
so
yeah.
let me get that.
Absolutely no problem. And, you already know, and we've spoken. You're facing an uphill battle here. I appreciate you shooting straight on this. It's the only way we're gonna move forward. Are you able to change these plans before, or are these set in stone?
We have there'll be a short time frame where we can adjust it some, but again, we've had to look at it carefully on, we want the feedback, but I'm not gonna sit and tell you that whatever you want, you tell me to change it, and someone else tells me change that, they will never.
I understand that.
It has to be something within reason. When
Right.
we start changing, then again, 263, which we already have uphill battle on, that increases more, and it's gonna be at a bigger.
Well, it'd be more shifts.
Well,
rather than-
positive shifts, and again,
Yeah.
that's what we can. work with.
Because what I'm hearing from the Lewisville community is this is still a little bit lopsided here. You know, we're getting our high school, which we have needed for quite a long time, because I told you we ain't going back to the past. We've needed it for quite a long time. But everybody in that 901 corridor who has more than 2 acres knows they call one of the 5 numbers in their phone who have already called them right now, cash out. You get 3 farmers out of there, you got another 1,200 homes. And they're calling, they're active on it. There is no, if you don't think that explosive growth isn't coming, I went to Fort Mill I started out in first grade when that high school was 700. By the time I graduated, it was 1,600, and we were building the second. That's what's coming here, and we got to account for that growth in Lewisville. And this plan, without adjustments, I don't think it's going to do that. So that's my comment / question.
Thank you. And as I mentioned to everyone here, we could easily add, we could double, triple size the school, but again, at 263, well, that number will have to increase. We're not going to get any cheaper. So keep that in mind.
Less of us concerned about cheaper. We're concerned about what makes sense.
Yes.
Now, you want to raise it up to 293? That, yeah, it's gonna, I mean, people are gonna fuss because it more taxes, but you know, I mean, water's wet, sky's blue, taxes aren't fun to pay. But if fairness and planning for the growth is the key element here. We want to keep taxes down as much as humanly possible, but we've got to, I mean, if we have an explosive growth, like Fort Mill, we're completely unprepared for that in this plan in the Lewisville area. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you.
So you're saying to shift it from like maybe a different school to this school because the road is over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's address that. Let's address it. I'm gonna go on a limb and address that. And I feel that's, even from the last meeting, where you gonna, I wanna know where we're gonna shift it from. Chester High School currently has 800 students in the facility. They have new developments coming there as well. It's only being built for 100 more students. Lewisville has 380, we're building for 600. Keep that in mind. Where are you gonna shift it from? That's what I need to know. I want someone to tell me where. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. Help me understand where do we shift it from? You can't pull from that high school, because I think that's what a lot of people's mind, pull from Chester High School. They currently have 800 students. I just met Robert Long on Friday. There are new developments coming to the Chester area as well. We can't cut this out of Chester High School. It's being built for 100 students more. This school has 380, it's being built for 600. Proportionally, this school can take in more students over the next several years. So I can't tell you where to cut from. You help me with that. Help me with that. Where do we cut from? We can't take from the Lewisville Elementary School. They need to get their fifth graders back. We can't cut that. We can't take from Great Falls. So those are all the projects.
I absolutely agree. And within certain respects, you know, I don't mind being the place with the good schools and the crappy auditoriums.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's, I understand it's a point of community pride, and I understand that. But, you know, and there are some folks who you know, like Sheldon Brown from down here, went off to make a wonderful career because of athletics, but I am much more concerned about the 1,800 people who have a doctor next to their name than I am the one football star. So there's the starting point.
Yeah, thank you. And keep in mind, when you talk about the athletic facilities, that's to make sure we're being equitable. Because you all know, if we came to this meeting and didn't have athletic facilities, updated things in this facility, and we had in Chester, Great Falls, y'all be throwing things at me. I'm dodging you with my cane right now.
Yeah.
Come on, let's be real about it.
But we have the gateway right down the road, which can be used as a facility for events.
For fee. It's not free.
Well, the county council uses it all the time.
Yeah, it's not free for us. Again, we pay this, we pay. We pay.
We
Yes.
pay for every event we hold. The
Well,
county council does
all right.
it, we have to.
What should we talk about?
And those fees run what? They could be up to.
$6,000 to $8,000, $600 to $800.
Ms. Mike just said they moved prom from there because they had to pay for it. They moved the prom from
And it
there.
needs to be a county-wide discussion between the school district and the county council on what this county needs. It cannot just be coming from people that are actually investing in this county. I just built a $300,000 home, and y'all are fixing to double or even triple my taxes. That's insane. And I'm someone that grew up here. I have friends that are growing here. They are investing. They are building their own personal homes here. And y'all are pushing it back. This is too much money.
As the growth comes, that will spread out. That's what you have in the other districts that are around us that are growing by leaps and bounds. The tax base increases and it spreads that out.
We're just gonna go to the charter school on 901. I mean, they're already working on that. So we're gonna end up paying for something that it is astronomical. This is astronomical. It is so much money.
And the reason it is that amount, 50 years, nothing's been done in the county. Most districts have referendums every 5, 6, 7 years, so at a point where you need to continue to add on or rebuild or build, the number would be so high, but we haven't.
I can't not say, but we've had 2 referendums that were voted down. That's why nothing's been done. But each time we come back with a bigger referendum.
Yes.
If what's probably gonna happens, and you get voted down again, is there going to be a backup plan when you come in with something a little bit more sensitive? And like when a business does something, they don't get to just go and say, this is everything we want, we're gonna do it. They have to prioritize what's most important and hit things A, B, C, D. They don't get to say, this is everything we want on our list, now give it to us.
So, to answer your question, bottle of water.
And also, if I may, his business analogy, customers have to be able to afford it or they will not buy. We have a product, our children's education, our children's future. It's what we're investing in.
The Rockville
If I had
Mall
my
didn't
way,
just
I'd
go
take
tear down the mall,
administrators
they were
out.
renovating it.
If I had my way, I would lessen the administrators, put them in the classroom for years.
We don't say the State House has outlived its useful life. Let's tear it down and build a new State House.
So to answer your question, sir, you asked about if it fails, if the plan is to regroup again, have more committee meetings to see what you feel is a sensible plan. That's something we can't just get into in one setting like this, right? So, but keep in mind, when you start, if we cut anything we do to cut.
We're not opposed to doing things better for the students. We've lived here all our life, for generations, some of us. We want what's good for our kids and our grandkids that are coming.
Yeah, so the plan.
This getting shot down and coming back with a bigger offer every time and kind of throwing it in our face is a little.
Well, I came here July 21st, 2020. One of the key things that I've heard when I came, because I've asked throughout this county since I've been here a year and a half, what needs to be in this plan for it to be such a successful passage? But the key things that I kept hearing was Lewisville High School is not being rebuilt. That's why it's part of the plan. If you'd asked me if I was here for that referendum in 2020, I would have already had it in the plan. Because it does need to be replaced. And I don't think anybody here is saying it doesn't need to be rebuilt. Again, cost escalations. Nothing's going to, from 2020 or 2019 is not going to cost the same. The cost continue to increase, and it will. We don't do anything now, it'll be more next year, the year after that. And so keep in mind, when you're voting, it's different if you were in this Lewisville with its own school district and you're voting just for the schools here. We changed the planning and we cut out a community because everybody wants to protect their schools and their community, correct? If I take out Chester High School, it's still not the fact because you're not going to get the Chester vote if like the last time. You take the Lewisville High School out, which wasn't in there last time, the Lewisville voters will not vote for referendum. That's what happened. That's what I was told to me. They voted no because there was not a high school in the plan. So when you start cutting things out from communities, you lose that whole community. So we still won't get to pass. So that's what we're dealing with on this end. I get what you're saying, I honestly do. But on this end of it, you start cutting things from the plan, then you lose the entire community of voters. That's what we're dealing with. So then we're back at nothing happens. We continue this to patch, and as we continue to grow, we put kids in mobile units. And that's something nobody wants. Nobody wants to do that. But I appreciate those comments.
I mean, why can't some of the existing buildings be renovated? Why does everything have to be torn down and built new?
Garbage, man. It is. It's garbage.
I'm going to mention about the construction costs and
Renovate buildings all the time.
That's true, but it's not a business. It's a kid.
Mr. Thompson, I'm going to address that
I
question.
get what you're saying, but it's not a business.
One of the main features of the high schools here, so you've got two, including this one's either designed or constructed late 60s through late 70s. That type of construction, I think it was mentioned as not as robust. Maybe that's a nice way to say it, as what today's construction would be the thing behind that is that building was conceived in a different building code in a different era. So today's building code and today's era would require, if we upgraded, say, this facility, it would require an entire revision to the way that the code looks at this facility. So we actually did this analysis, is that it approaches the same amount of money to renovate this entire facility as opposed to look at it from a new perspective. We did that analysis originally, just simply because you've got to upgrade every single thing within the building up to today's building code. That includes not just the finishes and ADA access, but all these mechanical units, lighting, sprinkler systems, the drives, simply every single component. It used to be that was a viable solution for a lot of facilities, but this era of school is particularly difficult to kind of deal with, unfortunately.
To do that too, you would have to have, as other districts may have, some other districts, we don't have any swing space schools. Let's say we were at a place where it'd be cheaper to just renovate. We can't have kids in the building. We have to have kids in school. We have no room to place kids while we renovate the existing facility. It's gonna take more than one summer. So again, we don't have room. Where would we place students? We don't have a vacant facility to place them in. Some districts they maintain an old facility or keep it as a different facility that they could call swing space. We could put kids in while the school is being renovated. So that's another issue we run into.
Northwestern's been there my whole life, just as long as I've been here. And they continue to build on and grow, and
they have a lot that's come soon. Again, I can't say what, but I'm saying the requires a maintenance on that. Because they added on to the front of that campus, Northwestern campus, where the old facility was behind, and then the new addition on the front side of that campus. A lot of it goes on to how it's maintained from that point moving forward. And a lot of work's been done there. I spoke with the executive director of facilities 2 weeks ago, who's a colleague of mine, and he said himself, there's still issues at a lot of at those high schools, definitely too. You know, there are, even the Sullivan campus, which was the original Rock Hill High School there. There are issues there that they have to address. They're looking at a referendum also to address issues there with their schools.
All right, on the point of, you know, the new building and all of that, and there's you know, all this is gonna be here, and there's some in Chester. Could you invite Mr. Long to come to the next meeting and point out exactly where the new building's coming in Chester?
Yes, actually, I asked him to come. He had county council tonight.
Okay.
He's going to be able to come to the Chester meeting because he doesn't have county council.
Okay, can you have him point out exactly where it is? Because some of our folks have been in contact with him. Maybe he forgot, maybe overlooked, but all the stuff that he has shown us of all the new things, the closest outside of Richburg is Fort Lawn. You know, there's and a little bit of Great Falls. I haven't heard anything, you know.
Well, there is, again, my staff, we just met with him Friday.
All right, well then, if you want to build trust, have him come up here and explain exactly where they're going to be. That would be an absolutely good thing.
Yeah, and you say build trust, but I would hope trust is there with me because I'm not going to stand and lie to you on. That's not how I operate. I'm not going to stand in front of a room full of people with being recorded and lie to anybody. That's not how I operate.
So how long has Chester's high school been 800 students? Has it been growing? Has it been that for the last 10 years?
Yes, and actually,
what's the number?
I can't go back from its inception, but I know what we can expect from next year. Even they're going to go up to, I think it was 819 or something like that. So they're going to be bumped up more. This is preliminary right now, but what we have already coming up from the elementary middle school. And again, there's a sprinkling of homes in those areas too that are already there. It's not in the development. There's homes that are being built now, as is here with some other development. So, but they're going to still stay above the 800. But I can't tell you from 70 something to where what those numbers are.
Since what you say 20? Did you got here 2020? So how's the growth from 2020 to 2022?
I don't know. That's again, I'm not going to make up a number because I don't know off the top of my head. But if you want to give me information, give me yours, I can get that to you. Yeah.
I have two questions. One, I asked Ben in Great Falls, get the parameters, the capital improvement parameters and how much it costs for new construction, how much heavy, how much renovation. And I looked a couple of days ago and I just didn't see it. And if I could get that, I have somebody that keeps asking me about it. And one of the things, I wish we could go back and look at the Lewisville one, because I know you said that the building could be expanded, more classrooms could be built. And something was said about the growth coming from north and coming here. I wonder if in the Lewisville, this is about 94 acres between, according to GIS maps, between the elementary school and the high school. And when he mentioned Fort Mill, I thought that's what happened in Fort Mill, and they took the elementary school and joined it with Fort Mill High School. So in that thinking process, my question is, why put the road right smack dab in the middle? Why not make it a parameter road? I know the Department of Transportation makes you make buses go one way, and I know that there are rules to go by. I'm not questioning your design. I'm just thinking for down the road, this would be a perfect location for, because mamas like elementary schools near their homes. So one could be built in Fort Long, one could be built in Edgemore, and so on. And then if you put, you know, the buses coming here and the traffic, I just looked at it and it just seems to me that we can redesign the scope of Lewisville High School without the complaint I've heard is the zigging and zagging all through. I don't know. But I just wondered, would anybody be willing to look at that? Or is it not possible because of such and such, it won't work? I don't know.
You mean the drive into the campus? Let me go back. Back there.
Like where we are right now, that road goes all the way to the trees, and it's a dead end. Right?
Get to the...
Yeah, if you come in Lewisville High School Road, it goes to a dead end. Okay, you sort of have to turn, it's all right, you're coming from the big block of words. You're coming in and that road goes all the way to the trees. That's the end. That's the end, it's a dead end. If you, since you're building the baseball field, you got a service road that goes around, it looks like, behind with the concession stand or whatever back there. Why couldn't you build a road that goes around that way, cut that off, and then you won't have our students, one of the board members last time didn't want the Chester kids going across the road. You wouldn't have the Lewisville kids going across the road if you cut the road out. I don't know. Maybe I'm not trying to cause a confusion.
Sure.
I'm just saying that to me makes me have a pause because you are sending the kids across the road during the school day for PE and whatever.
Well, no, they wouldn't be, because they wouldn't use the softball field for PE. That would be maintained on the main campus of the stadium is. They won't go across the road for PE does not have on the softball field.
Well, field days and whatever, I mean, it just seems like that the part of the campus is over at the elementary school. Now, it won't matter if 7 years down the road you say, we can't, the only way we can do this is to put them together as a high school and we'll build a new elementary school.
Well, then if the growth comes away like your fourth, as you mentioned, the Fort Worth Grove, at that point, we were looking at another high school in the area.
Yes.
You would need to look at that as opposed
Good,
to
but-
moving, you know, how to incorporate that campus into, that building into that.
I
This-
just wondered
this-
if there had been any thought to that.
Yes, simply, this is a complicated campus, two facilities, having the requirements from SCDOT, of course, and the desire to not cause a problem and a panic when we have students being dropped off in the morning and in the afternoon, and bus traffic going in and out as well. I think this is, one of the questions earlier was, is this set in stone? I think this is a good example of these kind of fine-tuning details are exactly what we would do in design, in actual permitting, to make sure that it's not just an idea, but the Department of Education, the SCDOT, and the principal all agree that the traffic pattern is right, and we've studied it and we've made it absolutely what it needs to be. From a cost standpoint, what we're showing there, I know, is representative of cost, and I know that it works. There are always improvements, and there will be improvements as we go along in the design process. I think that answered your question.
Yeah,
Alan.
it makes me want to get more acreage somewhere else for the new high school and leave this to be developed or done later, but,
Another really good example is that this was brought up to me at the last meeting, is that baseball and softball field might not be oriented just the right way from a sun standpoint. So I think that's a really good idea that we can move some of those pieces around without changing the entire thing. It's still the same space. But things like orientation, traffic patterning, while they're all included in there, they'll definitely be fine-tuned as you actually go through the real design process.
we'll keep that in mind, that maybe we can
Right.
do the center instead of chopping it down.
Right. Yep.
Well, when you come to meet with me at the end, bring that back up and I'll sit down,
Okay,
okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that's all.
Road pattern. Has anybody looked at the possibility of running this road all the way to 223? When I was a kid, this road was dirt road and went out to 223. And there's no reason in the world, it's not far from here over to 223. There's no reason that road couldn't continue to 223 and then traffic would all have to come off Highway 9.
I know the
She has it.
answer to
Yeah,
that.
so do
It
I.
was a road right at the end of that road, the dead end is right up here. And Mr. Shepherd, who bought that, there were 2 ponds and there was a dam. And that dam was the county road. And he didn't want anybody coming through, so he blew up the dam. And now it's one old pond. So that will
That's a
solve.
history lesson.
That will solve that problem. But there is, I think, still 60 or 80 acres that touches Lewisville High School property right back there. And some elderly man in North Carolina owns it, and I don't know him, but there is some land back there. But you can't drive across that anymore.
Thank you for that history lesson, Ms. Woody. Yes, ma'am.
That is exactly what I was concerned about. Nothing has been addressed about still one way in, one way out. That if we ever had a major catastrophe down here, to get this increase of students out, emergency vehicles in, stuff, that we need to have more than one way in and out.
Thank you. And again, we would have to look into that down the line and see, because of course, nobody's going to give us acreage, nobody's giving away land. And we would have to purchase that, what's going to cost to, and of course, it's going to continue to skyrocket on the cost of that. But again, we would have to look into the history of that and see, I don't know where it goes. We have to look beyond our current site, sir, but we just told you why, but that's something we'll know to look at and see down the line if there's any reason, option to us to purchase and to extend the road out some. Thank you.
This is, somebody else has asked me to ask, so, she's wanting to know, with the rapid rise on increase in the cost of materials and a history of other schools going over budget by millions of dollars, what is the plan in order for each of these jobs to be complete? What would be the priority? What happens if only Chester High School can be built for the funds available?
Well, I'm a term Thompson, but I can tell you the project will come with what's called a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price, that it has to be built regardless of, we wouldn't have to absorb that. And of course, there's some contingency, of course, in any project. When you build a home, anything, you're gonna have a contingency amount in there to cover, but there'll be a guaranteed maximum price with the construction management firm that for this amount, they have to build this. And if anything else beyond that, correct me if I'm wrong, you all have to absorb that. It doesn't come back on the school district. Did I say that correct?
That's correct.
It's gonna be locked in.
Yes, ma'am. All right, it's getting in my bedtime. So we're going to hang around a little bit. We want to ask a couple questions after this, but definitely appreciate your time. And I want to say a few things I was wrap up with. I appreciate all, and we have this recorded, so if you need to get something else from me after this, please give me your contact information. I'll reach back out to you. That's one thing I will do. Again, as we mentioned before, we have a chance right now to bring about generational change for this county. We understand the cost. I'm telling you, we understand the cost. But again, this gets us to baseline where we need to be in this county to continue to pay for the growth and the changes that are coming. Mr. Long mentioned us on Friday in the meeting that several industry leaders that are looking to relocate here. He drove around, they want to know, they ask, what is Chester County doing with the school facilities? They're asking it, they don't even live here, they're asking that because when they move here with the industry, they want to be able for the employees to come and live here as well and those kinds of things. And people are not going to come a lot of places where the schools are in the current condition that they're in. And so that's something he just shared with us on Friday. And I wish he could be here, but again, he has county council meeting. So again, generational change. And I ask yourself when you go into the voting booth on the 14th, are you voting for what's best for the children of Chester County schools? Ask yourself that question when you're in the booth. And I'll leave you with this. Again, we know it doesn't hit everybody but again, when you look at that amount, for a can of soda a day, just for perspective, we can have those in the plan, our current plans. Are our students worth it? That's what I'll leave you with. Thank you for your time, and I'll feel free to staff that, ask any questions specifically, and we can go from there. Have a great night.